the Clean Slate Podcast. As weekly, I am here at the cottage co-working space. Today, I have a privilege invited one of the special guests, Douglas Ansburn, who I have always been wanted to meet again. I know last time we're supposed to uh, be live, sharing with us with a lot of things, great things about him, but due to some of the works commitments, so he couldn't make it. So I'm so excited that Douglas was able to be here today with us. Before having our guest have a few words with our listener, I would like to do a little brief introductions of who Douglas is. Douglas is the founder of the DNB Productions. He's also a veteran, one of the broadcasting and the media industry. Of course, over his time career, he has collaborated on projects with the National Geographic and the ESPN and a numerous corporate campaigns, which is a lot of amazing story behind. Today, he will be here at the Clean Slate Podcast to share with our listeners and our audience his journey and his wisdom and his experience and his career. Douglas, thank you so much for making time and be here with us today. I am so grateful having you coming back this time with us. Thank you so much. To have a few words for our audience who is listening or following us today.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me back. I know we tried to do this last month, and I had some scheduling conflicts at the last minute. And then if you want to get into that, we can definitely talk about that. Yeah, no, I'm thrilled to be here, and I appreciate the invitation. So, looking forward to the conversation.
It's always lovely to have you here. I know you have a lot of great things to share with us. I know last time. Well, we just recently spoke a few days ago. What really makes me respect and admire in the work that you do. I know it's not easy. People who don't understand the industry, the type of work that you do, they think like, oh, okay, it's just a photographer, or it's just a headshots. But what you have shared with me a few days back, I feel like it's more than just a picture, a photo. There was experience, there was branding, there was value. So, but before we dive into our deep conversations, I like to ask my guests how they start out their typical days. Share with us, how do you start out your typical days? I know you're very busy, but just love to hear from our guests.
Assuming I'm not on set somewhere, because that throws everything out of the kink. If I'm just in the office, look, I've got the luxury of having my office 15 feet from my bedroom. So cup of coffee. I make a side trip to the kitchen for a cup of coffee. Very important. Got to get that caffeine boost. And then I'm in the office about 8ish, and believe it or not, working on banking. I'm a big believer in tracking that banking information first thing in the morning. So I'll spend 15-20 minutes on that and clean up emails and from the overnight, which is usually mostly junk anyway, and try to plan out my day from there. But if I'm on set, then that throws I've loaded the car the night before and prepped all my batteries, and then I'm driving to set, and we're making the day happen there.
It seems like everyone have a very different days, how we're starting our typical days. But so my question was to you was, what is it that leading you into the photographer career? I think that's a very first question that I always want to ask.
What got me into photography?
Yes.
The short answer is I was grasping at straws in college. Um, I've always enjoyed photography as an art form. Growing up, mom and dad had National Geographic magazines. They had Time magazines, Life magazines, and I was always attracted to the imagery in those things. But I never put two and two together. Right? I didn't get my first camera until college, and it was a really basic. I still have it. It's on the shelf back here somewhere. Really basic, completely manual, no frills. Of course, back in the day where everybody was shooting on film. So a little 35 millimeter that I got to play with, and really just kind of fell in love with it. In college, I'd gone to college actually to study computer science. That lasted about a half a semester because I couldn't do basic arithmetic and binary. When you can't add and subtract in binary, computer science is probably not the best place to be. Bounced around a couple different majors for a while, and always loved theater. My wife and I met on stage actually years later, but I was looking at theater, I was looking at photography, and knew I couldn't make a career on the stage, and I didn't want to go work for a newspaper, so I ended up studying photography, but I got my degree in basically radio, television, and film, so I could go work in broadcasting. Of course, my very first job out of the school was working in a newsroom, so I didn't exactly avoid it. And I still do. I still work with news departments on a semi-regular basis. So as long as I'm not doing it every day, it's not terrible.
It's not terrible. You know what? Just and everybody have their own journey, and I know it takes time for a person to really getting where they starting and then getting to where they are now. I know that prior to this DNB production, you were involved in broadcasting, media industries, and many other projects. But what is it that really leading you starting your own productions?
At one point, I thought I wanted to be the next Steven Spielberg. I went so far as to even write, produce, direct a short film that actually got play around the globe. Was never able to make that leap from short films to feature films. But DNB Productions was originally started as a production company for the purpose of creating films and telling stories. I've been DNB Productions now for, well, let's just say I didn't have gray hair in the beard when I got started. I've been DNB Productions now for a couple of decades. So it's just it's DNB, it's my initials. I mean, that's where it comes from. Nothing crazy or outlandish from there. But yeah, I thought I wanted to be the next Steven Spielberg. My career took a radically different path than his. Nothing wrong with that. I like Steven's work. I think he's an incredible director in his own. Obviously, he's very successful. But my career path took a very different turn, and I'm not complaining. I've had the opportunity to work with and meet some incredible people over the years, do and see things that most people have never or would never have the opportunity to see or do outside of their own little world. I've gotten to see a variety of people in a variety of situations at all walks of life, from people who are, who literally make the engines of our economy run by working on the factory floors and producing the most basic of equipment, to working with politicians and celebrities at the highest levels of government and entertainment, and everybody in between. So that variety is fun, because I never know from week to week. Well, I mean, I have an idea from week to week, but I mean, I never know from job to job who I'm going to have the opportunity to meet with and talk to and learn from and have in front of my lens.
I think that is very, it's like a long journey, and I'm sure you learned a lot through that journey. That I feel like every person starting out, either their career or their professionals journey, there's always like something that they learned that leading them into another step. Last few days we would talk about this topics, how we will prepare what we're going to share on the Clean Slate podcast, and you were saying something that it's really, I feel like it's really resonate, it's really important. And I asked myself, just to ask you this, why visuals really matter in today marketplace, in society. Why is the visual, either it's for professionals or personal, it's so important. Can you share with us your thoughts about that? Your
Yeah,
experience?
well, especially these days, because we live on our screens, computer, phone, tablet, the watch. I do not, by the way, have a digital. I mean, this is a very basic $12 special from Amazon, right? I don't go, but I mean, but even but most people, even though, have some sort of digital watch that connects to the internet or the phone or something, right? So we live in a very visual society, and
Yes.
historically, as a human, as a culture, we have relied on visuals to convey messages, whether that be for religious purposes. Walk into any Catholic or Orthodox church, you're going to be bombarded with religious imagery, right? Some of the greatest examples of art from Western history have been commissioned by the Catholic Church. But every society has had some kind of visual medium that they use to convey a message. I mean, go back to the prehistoric societies and the petroglyphs, where they're literally scratching images on rocks, or you start painting onto the rocks, right? Every society throughout human history has done that, conveyed a message visually to somebody else within their society or to future generations or whatever the case may be. So being a visual people is just part of who we are. Now, photography, in the realm of art, is a, relatively speaking, new medium. It's only been around a couple hundred years. And because of that, we pull from various art forms to inform our own visual journey as photographers and artists. And depending on the photographer you talk to, you're going to hear all kinds of different stories about what makes, why one photograph is better than another, or why one speaks and another one doesn't, or whatnot. But we pull a lot of our visual rules and communication tools, I should say, from traditional art forms, specifically painting, but other traditional art forms. But we use them now. I mean, it's visually. And now that we're on our phones and that we're on our tablets, and I'm as guilty as the next person. And at night, on the evening, scrolling through news sites and social media and YouTube and all, right? We live and communicate visually. So to not know or understand the language of visual communication in the modern world does ourselves and our businesses a disservice. We have to know and understand, at least at a basic level, at a rudimentary level, the importance and the meaning behind messages, and to be able to, so that we know what we need when we're trying to communicate to somebody. They say, look, Kodak. If you remember the Kodak commercial, and I'm going to date myself, a picture's worth 1,000 words. That came from Kodak. That was a Kodak advertisement in the late 70s. And it's true. You and I are having a conversation, and I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling to find words. I mean, give me a camera and a concept, and let's go play, and I will come up. I'll sit there and create a book of photos that does a much better job than I am doing right now, communicating how important photography is to communicate to that communicate to my audience, because you have to, and this is kind of what you and I were talking about earlier in the week, or I guess it was last week. You have to know who you're talking to, and you have to know what it is that you're trying to say. If you know that, then you can communicate, you can build visuals to communicate that. And if you know who you are and what you want to learn as an audience member, you can now say, okay, this person is important to listen to, or this person is not important to listen to. This photograph is important. It's important for me to spend more than half a second on, or this, or, you know, I can just keep flipping past it. It's not speaking to me because it doesn't speak to me as of who I am and what I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. You were absolutely right, and I think last time when we were spoke to each other, picture means 1,000 words, and I seeing a lot of today's society. People have lots of choices, right? When it comes into choosing a photo headshots or a company's events. Pictures. I mean, there's a lot of things that I feel like they want to bring the quality of their brand, and how can a photographer can bring it out to help they branding their business, right? So I'm sure you have a lot of experience when people don't know the importance of the quality of their personal brand, especially when it comes to images. Share with us. I'm sure you've seen a lot, or you come across many cases and many clients that you're working with that they seeing that, oh, it's just a Photoshop. Oh, it's just a pictures. You know, it's not really a huge of a difference. But as an expert, as a photographer like you in the industry for so long and seeing so many things, what would you suggest or advise someone new or someone didn't know anything much about it?
Well, I always start with every client that I'm working with is, you know, or go back to what are we trying to say and who are we trying to talk to? Got to know those two things. What are we trying to say and who are we trying to talk to? If you know that, then you can build a visual brand around that. And look, let's pick on Cracker Barrel. They're in the news. Everybody's familiar with what's going on with them. I'm not going to just totally dump on them, but you know, I think they misjudged who their audience was, and you're seeing the backlash now out there because of that. And of course they're in a whole branding thing, much more beyond than just the visual, you know, the photography that they use, right? But it is the, but they, you know, it is that whole visual aesthetic. People are missing the wooden, you know, the dark wood features of the restaurant. Well, that's a visual aesthetic because it speaks to a particular segment of the marketplace. So if you're in business, and all of us are at some level, all of us, you know, I don't care if you are answering the phones as the receptionist or you are on the line crafting the doohickey. We're all in sales. We all at the end of the day have to sell the company that we work for, whether we're self-employed or we're a small cog in a large organization. So knowing who it is that we're trying to talk to is vitally important, whether that's your senior management at your company, having collateral for your personal brand within your organization that helps promote you up the ranks is just as important as it is for the marketing department to have collateral that speaks to the companies that are buying your widgets or your services, and making sure that those match, right? So that if you are trying to work your way up the ladder, having that visual collateral that says, I am ready for this next step, right? It's like the old adage, dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. Same thing with visual collateral. Create visual collateral for your professional social media posts, because let's face it, we're all posting on social media, and at the end of the day, it reflects back on what we're doing professionally.
Yes.
Having professional collateral that says, I'm ready for that next step. I'm ready to move into mid-management or senior management. I've got images of me shaking hands with movers and shakers within my community that's gonna benefit me and my employer professionally. That's vitally important to have that. Now, what you do to collect that and create that may be an individual conversation. I'm trying to work personally. I'm trying to work more with brand managers and corporate communications and people in marketing who are working more at the corporate level. But if you've got a small shop even, and maybe you're a company of 10 people, there's somebody in that office that's your go-to person for your marketing and your social media and your branding and communicating to your target audience what it is that you as a company do, what you value, what's important to you, and why it's important to your target market. And so working with somebody professional to help you build that library, the collateral library of images, whether that's your headshots for your executive team, that your headshots for your entire, maybe it's headshots for your entire staff. Maybe it's a small staff, you have 20 or 30 people, and you want the whole office to have headshots. Because at the end of the day, a small office like that, everybody's going to be some level of frontline sales. Maybe it's having photography that you can use in your social media that showcases how fantastic your services are, the level of detail that you get into creating your widgets, and or the commitment of your people that your people have to crafting the quality that goes out the door to every single one of your customers. That's important imagery to have to showcase your brand. And there's various tools and tricks and whatnot that I use as a photographer to make that happen. But I want to communicate. I want to know that ahead of time. Who are you communicating to? Maybe you're communicating not to your direct customer, but maybe you're communicating something about your social impact in your community. Maybe your organization does a lot of volunteer work or promotes volunteerism within the organization. Well, that's, especially on a larger corporation, that's very important to say, hey, we're part of that community. We're part of your community. We're out there. Our people are out there volunteering at the animal shelter, working with Habitat for Humanity, and I'm just picking organizations out of the hat. Working with Habitat Humanity, working with something with scouting or something with the kids, right? Those are all important. Being out there and saying, hey, we are out here, being part of the community, supporting our community. That's important, and the best way to tell that tell that story is having that imagery to share on your social media feed and on your newsletters and in your corporate reports. All right. So, but here again, that's a different audience and a different marketing message than look at the quality of the work that we produce, or look at the detail that we put into our widgets that we sell. Very different message. It's a very different audience. So knowing that going in helps us craft the images that we need for the clientele.
Based on what you were sharing, thank you so much. I feel like that's a lot of information, lots of experience, wisdoms right there. And I know, because I always follow your posts on LinkedIn, and I have seen that you have been serving your clients, and I see that you have set up those huge events, and you were taking your time, you were very dedicated, you were setting things up, and I see how sophisticated you are when you're setting things, at a huge one of the event recently, I would say a few months back. So are you just providing professional works for corporates, photographies, or for events, or do you cater to small business owners and individuals? I mean, did you serve to
Yeah, so I've
all,
got
all
depending
sizes? Or?
on yeah, so it kind of depends on what the company is needing. So I've got two primary areas that I work in. One is in the commercial photography, like what we've been discussing,
Mm-hmm.
where we're creating photographs to help the company tell their brand story in whatever format that may play out in. Um, uh, and that can be everything from product shots to quality shots to people, your people on the floor, documenting events, documenting conferences and whatnot. So that's one side that I do. The other thing that I do is focus as a concentration on headshots specifically in two areas. One is come in and do headshots for the entire office staff or for the senior management,
Mm-hmm.
and that's billed on a per person rate based upon volume on a sliding scale. So the more people we photograph over the course of the day, the less per person it is. Or we can do headshots at events and conferences, and that may have been what you were referencing. I was at the International Women's Conference here back in the spring,
Mm-hmm.
doing headshots for there, and that's a different scenario. So yes, we're doing quality headshots, but we're giving the headshots away, and the sponsor then is getting one, they're generating goodwill. It's kind of like swag on steroids, right? You're giving away free headshots sponsored by XYZ company, and you get your brand out there and your logo out there. Okay, that's great. But then the
Mm-hmm.
sponsor, what's important to them is they get a list of everybody that comes through that headshot booth that they can now market to. So what I'm really doing for my sponsor at that case is driving traffic and helping them with lead generation. And that which is vitally important to any business. Getting lead generation, getting in front of qualified potential leads to help them drive additional business in the door. And I'm doing that through using photography. I'm using headshots as the medium to do that because that's my skill set.
That's your skill set, and I can tell that you're really good at it. I seen the work that you did, and I know last time we were discuss a lot of things too. I still there's a lot of things I was like I wanted to ask you this question is that why companies needs to dedicate a visual strategies partners when it comes to their marketings and
Well,
their
you should put a lot of thought into your visual brand. And branding is so much more than just the visuals. It's so much more than just the logo. Branding includes how you answer the phone. It includes how you communicate, how your customer service. All of that is branding, right?
yes.
So let's not just. But knowing who you are visually is vitally important and helps inform your entire brand strategy. Knowing if you've got a corporate colors that you're working with, if you've got if you got fonts, right, knowing the photography that's done for McDonald's is going to be radically different than photography done for Brennan Steakhouse. They're both restaurants. They both serve food. At the end of the day, you're going to get a piece of beef on your plate.
Mm-hmm.
Radically different experience too, by the way, but with a radically different price tag. But your visual brand strategy for selling a McDonald's hamburger is going to be very different than your visual brand strategy for selling Brennan Steakhouse. And so knowing here again who you're talking to, knowing who you are as a corporate identity, as a business identity, informs that. And so working with a professional who understands that concept and can plug into your environment. I look and I'm picking on food. I'm actually not a food photographer. There are people who specialize in food photography. I mean, I can photograph food. I mean, I've been known to do it. It is not my specialty. It's not what I'm known for. I'm known as the guy who's going to be out in the field or on the factory floor or in the industrial environment with the hard hat and the steel toes, and that's my forte. That's my comfort zone. I'm very happy on a construction site. Can I do food photography? Yes. Am I advertising it? No. And am I expecting to get a job with McDonald's or Coca-Cola or no? They're not going to call me. And they shouldn't. Look, if they call, I'm very happy to have the conversation with them. I'm like, sure, let's talk. Yeah, let's have a meeting. No problem. But the chances of that happening are highly, minuscule at best, because I don't fit their brand. Right. So working with someone that fits the brand of who you fits your company brand that's going to that you can plug into. And so having people that know and understand your environment, your company culture, your industry culture, that's important. And so then hopefully you've developed a working relationship with this person or this company that will stretch out for many, many years. And you've got a real vendor partner relationship then that's, they're looking, I may not be employed by XYZ manufacturing on a daily basis, but their brand, their visual content is just as important to me as it is to them.
Thank you for sharing. And I can see that. I know last time, and thank you for sharing that you're not specialized in food photographer, because I always seen you out in the field. And there was last time, like back in July, you were in Caraville. You were taking photo shoots and you were doing a lot of things. It was a huge project. And I think that was out of the scopes, because I was thinking you probably, set up in those corporates or those companies, just doing headshots, companies, the event. But then I also see another side of you really like down on the floor, taking photos and like just rolling up your sleeve. And there's a lot of actions going on. And I thought you were in movie productions too. And I thought you were, that was your forte. But wow, thank you so much for sharing. What is your specialties today?
So Kerrville, I mentioned that I still work on occasion with various news departments and whatnot. That all of that works in broadcasting. That's behind a video camera. I'm working with a correspondent in the field to tell a story back to New York, which then gets broadcast nationwide. And Kerrville was an absolute. It's the hardest story I've ever worked on. Yes. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. That was we had for those who were listening, we had scheduled the second week or the weekend following the Independence Day weekend. We had scheduled this conversation. And right. If you remember the news from that weekend, July 4th, we had that monster flood in Kerrville where over 100 people got washed away and died and drowned. And at one point, we thought it was going to be double that. We thought it was going to be more than double that. So the scale and the scope of the devastation, and I have worked my fair share of disasters. I've done hurricane coverage. I've done, back early in my career when I was working in news on a daily basis. If it bled, it led, and some drunk gets, wraps himself around a pole in the middle of the night on his way home, and then you have or dead bodies at an intersection from a car wreck. I've covered all that. I filmed murder scenes. I don't want to say I'm hard and crusty, but I've kind of seen that, done that. Okay, moving on. The Hill Country flooding was on a scale that I have never experienced before, and I hope to God I never experience again. That was utter devastation on an incredible scale. And what was supposed to be just a couple of days stretched into almost a full week of between Kerrville, and then I drove out to Rio de Janeiro, New Mexico, where they had experienced couple flash flood events where a couple people died as well. So yeah, that was what was there. And so, but here again, that's all broadcast related. You know, most of my career has been spent behind a video camera, not behind a still camera. As much as I love still photography, I do adore still photography as a medium. Most of my career has been behind a video camera, working with people like, and that was for Fox Weather of that week, but I've also worked with CNN. I've also worked with Newsmax. I've also worked with ESPN and National Geographic television. I've worked more corporate video than you care to shake a stick at with, you know, I mean, I'm Houston based, so name a Houston corporation. I've probably done some video work with them over the years, at one point or another. So yeah, that's been, so that's where that came from. That's how I got that gig.
Well, you know what? First of all, I would like to say thank you in person, officially this time, for all the work that you have done, you know, a few months back. You really put yourself out there, capturing all the things going on, sharing all the memories and things that needs to be done. I just want to say thank you so much. It was great to have you back today. And like I say, it's like an old story. We're catching up from what we left off the last time, and I feel like I just feel like it's
had an opportunity to get out and about and go hit some of the networking things that you and I like to hit. And but look, I'm not complaining. It's been a profitable summer.
It is, and I'm not complaining at all. I mean, things have been moving very, very good. It just we didn't realize how much we have done just a few months back, right? I mean, we have accomplished a lot. Like I say, I just want to take a minute to say thank you for our audience and our listeners out there. I know today's episode was very special. Douglas sharing his experience, his knowledge, all of the things that he have been doing through his whole career. So I just want to say each week, the Clean Slate episode podcast, my goals, creating a positive community where we can connect professional people, business owner, either you startup or you building something right now. We're here to help, to share, and how to support each other's growth. Douglas, I love to hear whatever you're sharing today with me, with the audience. And I want to know, what is the primary message that like the key takeaway for our listeners when it comes to they want to build their personal branding or they company's branding? What will you advise for someone on that journey or going through that process?
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Know what it is that you're trying to say and who you're trying to communicate that to. You know those two things. Everything else, you start filling in you can start filling in the blanks very quickly, very easily. But knowing who you are, knowing who you're trying to speak to and what message you're trying to convey, got to have those two things down. You have to, in order to have effective communication. And that's true whether it's visual content, photography, video, if it's written content, if it's for your website, whatever. You've got to know who you're trying to talk to and what message you're trying to convey. And if you start there, you'll make it happen.
Thank you so much. And it's really up to the people how they can take it to the next step, right? But those are two the main important components, the main ideas that
they go together. They work in tandem. They work in tandem.
Okay. Well, at least I'm learning that. I'm taking that and I take notes for that. Any upcoming projects that you're going to launch or events to promote coming up?
I've got a new project I'm working on right now. I haven't shot anything on it yet. I think I might have gotten my first date on it for next month. I'm working on a personal project, photographing people that work as volunteer firefighters.
Oh,
The vast majority of firefighters nationwide are volunteers. It's like around 80% or some side, 85%. Now we live in Houston, and that flips the script on us. So it's harder to find volunteers. But I've been wanting to do this for a while and work with firefighters, crafting some really poignant imagery, showcasing their hard work, their dedication, their training, their commitment to their community, their sacrifice that they give, that I think needs to be highlighted. And so I think I've got my first photo shoot scheduled down for next month. But if anyone's out there connected to that world, would love an introduction to a firehouse, fire chief, a public information officer that I can communicate with. I'm not charging anything for this. This is totally self-funded. I'm not looking for contracts to make this thing happen. This is a personal artist journey for me because I so rarely get to photograph anything for myself. So this is what I'm doing. I'm saying I'm going to step back and do something that says this is for Douglas and supports the community at the same time.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it says a lot, right? It's just like I'm creating the Clean Slate Podcast too. I'm creating a positive community to help and uplift a lot of people who's going through a transitions, who wants to build up something, a business, a career that they always wanted. That's why we all here come together. We're sharing our business wisdom, our life experience, our stories, and hopefully whatever we're sharing here today at the Clean Slate Podcast to our listeners out there, you can see the benefits. And if you see what we have sharing today, what Douglas have pouring his heart out, and I can tell that he's very sincere, that he always want to put his best knowledge to help us utilize these tools, professional people like him who've been in the industry for so long. And I love the fact that you really put it, like narrow it down just for two things, very simple, the way how we communicate, right? And we know exactly what we wanted. I think you hit it home with those 2 points. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Anytime.
So,
Thank you.
yes, and like I say, oh my gosh, time goes really fast. I learned so much, and I love to hear what you're sharing, because I see myself that there's a lot of things that I need to improve. As you're sharing, and I was listening, I was like, oh my God. So the next thing, how I'm gonna, working on my next projects for myself and then my staff. And of course, we will have some new project to discuss. Quick question: if anybody want to learn or to learn more about your services, or want to learn what you do, where can they reach out to you, Douglas?
The website's probably the easiest place, and that's dnbproductions.com. So my initials, dnbproductions.com. And feel free to reach out to me there. You can book a call with me if you want to book a call with me, or reach out on the contact form. And always happy to have a conversation and see where things lead. And if all it is, hey, I need to know more about, we can do that too.
Right. Or they can just reach out to LinkedIn, and there's a lot of
I'm all over LinkedIn. Well, Christy, I'm all over LinkedIn. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, DM me there. Not a problem.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, thank you to our listeners and our audience out there. Like I say, I feel so happy that Douglas was able to just to come up to the show today. I know this conversation supposed to started months back, but life happened, things caught us, and it drifted us away, and we finally met. And Douglas, I just want to say, I really appreciated you sharing your times and being here with us today. Me, myself, get the benefits a lot. And I hope what I have been doing at the Clean Slate Podcast to help people, business owner, entrepreneur, women who wants to rebuilding either their life or their business with grace, grit, and better books. Uh, and I hope today's episodes blended in with the business wisdom, with real life experience, real life stories, and each week I choose to share with the people that I know and who's also walking this journey with me. So thank you so much for the listeners to tuning in today. And if you missed today's episode, you can just watch the replays. And we hope to see you next week here at the Cottage co-working space. Have a great night, everyone, and see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Chrissy. Talk soon.